Hey, hey.
In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie.
That's right. It's In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie. Guess who Ryan Roxie is? That would be me. And guess who you are? You are there listening somewhere out there in a car, in a train, in a plane. Yo, you're not in planes or trains. We are still all in our houses, aren't we? Probably in your living room, probably not wearing pants. But here we are at a special live stream edition of In the Trenches. Welcome. Thank you very much for showing up on Instagram. And we're not even on Instagram, on Facebook Live and obviously YouTube. So right off the bat, thank you for coming. Today is one of those gigs where I am going to be very relaxed because I don't have to do anything. I just have to sit back and let it all unfold because our guest today, you guys all know him. You guys already support him. You already love him. I saw how many people were in the chat room before the show even started. So you obviously are huge supporters of his bands, both his bands that he plays in. I get to play with him every single night on Stage Right with Alice Cooper, but he also fronts his own band with one of our guests that was on a couple of weeks ago, Calico Cooper. Would you please welcome to In the Trenches guitarist, a frontman, Beasto Blanco himself, Chuck Garric. Welcome to In the Trenches. There. Folks, if you haven't heard, Beardgate comes to the trenches.
Come to me. What's up, buddy?
What's happening, man? I feel like I'm interviewing Cat Stevens. It's great.
The beard has been it gets. I think the beard is getting as popular as Slash's top hat.
It could be your thing. I don't even have my red, white, and blue wristband on tonight because I'm letting all the focus shine on your beard. And actually, for those of you that are listening on the podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Stitcher, or Spotify, you got to get yourself over to the old YouTube or Facebook Live, and so you can visualize all that is Chuck Garric today. So what's happening, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm just, got a lot going on. I was going to...
A lot on your plate.
I got up a little bit later than usual. I was going to get dressed. I figured why. So I'm still in my robe. I did manage to take a shower. And, yeah, man, this was something that I was actually very grateful, but at the same time, a little upset that you'd asked me to be on the show, only because you actually, you gave me responsibility. I had to be somewhere at a certain time. And I
actually gave you...
not used to that. But I have to say that in all honesty, I have not hated the time off and the time to just sort of chill out and relax and reevaluate and all that stuff. Although I understand that, that not because of the C word, am I giving it any credit or anything, but it's been nice to have a little bit of time, because for most of the people out there that know, and I've been at this for 17, 20 years, and it just never have I had time off during, May, June, July.
Honestly, because we both have been associated in the Alice camp for a very long time, the Alice Cooper camp, and sort of on and off years, I've been around since '96, but I think consistently, you might win the award for consistency of the longest consistent member of the Alice Cooper band. Is that true?
I think so. I haven't missed any shows except for this last year in October in London when Chris Wise filled in for me, which was the first time I'd ever had a sub, and that includes charity events and
that's 2004, right? Or was it 2003 or 2004?
2003. I think 2002, 2003. I don't know. Look at Sick Things UK.
Always refer. Go to my MySpace, because it's still up on MySpace.
But Ryan, it's not only and you know this. It's not just Alice Cooper. I mean, there was a year I remember I did Alice Cooper, Billy Bob Thornton, and the Eric Singer band, and I literally had 1 month off in the whole 12-month period of time,
Well, being that you just said that, happy birthday to Eric Singer today.
Yeah, happy birthday.
There you go, Eric Singer, the Yoda of rock and roll. And just big shout out. I can see the chat is filling up with a lot of our people that listen to us and watch us quite frequently. But then there's a lot of new people here, and that's all because of Chuck Garric and the Beasto Blanco flock. I love it. So if you are new to this, just give us a little subscribe. Yeah. What do you guys call yourself? Are you beasts? You're loyal beasts. That's right. Loyal beasts. If you're loyal beasts, you guys can sort of cross-pollinate with the RGA, which is the Roxie Guitar Army. Become one, and maybe you already are part of both, which is fine. I say it's good to have everybody in one sort of umbrella. We all are under the sort of the riding the coattails of the Alice Cooper train, you know, or Magic Carpet or whatever that has been for so many years. But there's so many things that I want to just address and then just let you talk about, because I think a lot of interviews and a lot of people that are watching right now might not know about the earlier years. And I did a little bit of research, and of course, everybody on the team, whether it's Robby or Dave or Vic or Scotty, they've helped with this script today. So if you're not happy with the questions, please blame them. Okay. Because last week we almost had Mike Monroe almost, I asked one question that Dave the Rat came up with, and it started Michael Monroe on a tirade. So hopefully none of my questions about Turd or the Droots will spark you into a rage.
Hey, okay. Man, I'm not going to yell at those guys. I know that it's, they're under a lot of pressure anyway, and who knows? Are they wearing their Nikes?
It's not hard. Is it? You know how hard it is to work for David Koresh? Apparently, I look like a sort of B-list actor trying out for the made-for-TV role of David Koresh, and yeah, there you go. I with glasses and all. I didn't know that he had the same sort of. And he
was a musician, bro. I'm telling you.
Well, you know what? I'm looking at some places in Waco. Waco has some good real estate, I got to tell you. And I heard there's a big compound there for sale. But anyway, you remodeling. A little spackle. There's a little spackle. So anyway, I wanted to talk. You addressed real quick that we are having this break, and just so the people know, we want to be out there rocking and rolling for you. But I was texting with Kyler, who's Alice Cooper's assistant, yesterday. Back and forth, he lives in Nashville, and that's I think that you're streaming to us live from a steakhouse somewhere in Nashville, aren't we?
Correct.
Okay, I can see by the cow's head in the back. It's just order the blooming onion. It's good.
I had to run after that thing. It took at least like 12 or 15 steps to catch up to him.
Was that the you got that? So that's a Ted Nugent thing, huh? I love it. So anyway, Kyler was saying, we were texting back and forth, and I was saying, maybe this is the break that all of us were kind of too afraid to admit to ourselves that we needed, like just off the road for a while. And like I said, it has nothing to do with us not wanting to be on the road. We want to work, trust me, but nobody wants to stop that train going. But it was forced. And he kind of agreed with me, like, hey, maybe this was like a forced thing that we didn't want to face ourselves, but we're all sort of getting some out of it now.
Well, yeah. I mean, we all, there's a lot of time spent together. People got to realize that when we're not on stage, we're backstage together. We're after the show on the bus together and playing cards. And I think more in Europe than in the States, we have a sort of a bigger bus, and we're able to spend time upstairs where the bunks are and in the front lounge. And we have some time to talk. And that's, I think, where everybody sort of opens up, and we just say, I know Kyler has kids. I have my daughter. But, I also have my mom who's getting older, and I don't get to see her as much or get the time to visit. So all of those emotions sort of come out, but we know we have a responsibility in our careers as a musician. It's something that I know Ryan and I've talked about for hours on end, but it's something that I've been doing my whole life. It's like I haven't changed since I was 13, 14 years old. I'm still going to band practice. I'm still writing songs. I'm still learning songs. I'm still trying to learn to play bass. And I'm still discovering music. But, when you reach this level, you gotta tour. And when you do that, it takes you away from the things that you've worked so hard to sort of become comfortable with, and home is one of them. Being able to just be rooted. Me as a Taurus, feel like I long to be in a place where I'm comfortable and want to be there. So the break was definitely it was a little scary in how abrupt it happened, but I've been embracing it and trying to take time to just reflect and take advantage of the break, not just sit there in front of the TV. I can't even remember the last time I turned the TV on, to be honest with you. But just, learn a new skill, take time to call family more often, support your thing that you're doing, and which, by the way, you do so well.
Thanks, man.
It's like people have said it, and I think we can all agree. I mean, these are some strange times, but I do think if we don't take advantage of them, because it's going to end, and when it does, we're all going to be back. What did you do? What did you do that was good? What did you do that was good to the world, good to yourself, good for your inner self? What did you do with it? What did you do with all this time? So hopefully you figured something out and you did something about it.
Well, and then at the end of the day, everyone's going to say, well, Chuck grew a beard. Let's talk about that, because seriously, we're going to talk about it. Don't worry, folks in the chat. We are going to talk about the beard, but those are wise words from Chuck Garric, who all of a sudden, for some reason, looks a bunch more wiser. And, but I want to talk about what came first. Was it Turd or the Droots? And this is going way, way back, because we talked about this is what you wanted to do since you were a kid. You and as well as I have, I just wanted to play music for a living. And I know that Turd, which I believe morphed into the Droots, were one of the first bands that you had. And I want to take the listeners and the viewers a little bit back in time of where you were, because you kind of started out as a Seattle guy, right?
Well, no. So I grew up in Lake Tahoe, California.
Northern California guy.
Northern California, yeah. Small town. There was no real music scene. I mean, there was only like a handful of us kids that loved, metal and rock and roll. And I happened to live right across the street from two of them, Michael and John Kokoris. And John played drums. And Michael, at the age of 16, who was older than us, I was 13 or 14, could play guitar and knew, all the Eddie Van Halen and all the Jimmy Page riffs. And he would always say, well, let's do Stairway to Heaven. And Michael would say, well, what do you want to do, the live version or the album version? At 16, the guy was just a virtuoso. He was amazing. And he's the one who really taught me how to play bass. So my first band was called Touch of Class.
Ooh, man.
Yeah.
Touch of Class.
We did a talent
I believe
show.
I've frequented that bar before.
We all wore matching light blue shirts with white pants. And we were way ahead of Hellbop.
Vic, put up a picture of that. If he's that good of a producer, he will put up a picture of that right now. Does one exist?
I don't think so. It does my mom's photo album. I know that.
Oh my God! Anybody out there that's watching or listening from Lake Tahoe, if you can find an old Touch of Class flyer.
No. It was one show. We did one night only. We did a talent show at Harvey's, and I just got my bass. Gosh, man, I had it maybe just a couple of weeks, and we did a song called "Give Me the Night" by George Benson.
Give me the night. Yeah, I know that song. Yeah. That was your song.
Yeah, that was the song we covered. We had this guy, his name was Sean Mahoney, and he was sort of like the younger version of Meatloaf. Could sing like his amazing. His mom was a backup singer for the Turtles or whatever. But Sean was fantastic. We had a hype guy playing the tambourine and getting everyone excited.
You had a bez. I love it.
Yeah, and we played. And now if you listen to the song "Give Me the Night," listen to the bass line. I know what I played that night, which was boom, 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 boom. I think it was the key B. I played B the entire time. Anyway, we won. We won first prize, which was the trophy, and so from there on, that was my first band, Touch of Class. But now, Turd was formed also in Lake Tahoe. And,
so it was formed. Turd was formed in Lake Tahoe, and then it migrated either north or south.
No. So what happened was,
I got no facts right. Just
let me. I'll give you the how the order real quick, which was I grew up in Lake Tahoe, graduated high school, immediately moved to Los Angeles, went to Dick Grove School of Music, stayed in Los Angeles. The late 90s or early 90s when the grunge era happened, I was in a band called Dead of Winter with Brian Young from Fountains of Wayne, the drummer, who's now the drummer. And him and I went to Seattle with a band called Dead of Winter. That's where they were from. I lived there for a little over a year, moved back to LA, hanging out at Tammy Down's place on the rocks or whatever that was.
That was, I remember these clubs that he'd have. It was like, he had a couple of different clubs. Well, obviously Cat House.
We had a good time,
yeah.
And then so I met my Leisha's mom there, my daughter's mom, and we ended up moving to Lake Tahoe to have a family and save some money. I know when we moved there, I had a van that barely ran, and $75 in my bank account, and I had a kid on the way, so I instantly had to get my act together. So,
wait, Chuck, you're saying that you lived in Lake Tahoe and you had a van. So you literally had a van down by the river.
I had a van down by the river. Absolutely. We had no place to live.
And you lived in a van down by the river. That is a classic.
Listen, man, if people really could get inside of what my life has been like and seriously what my family is like at times, I think you'd be shocked at how well-adjusted I actually am. I think you give me a lot more credit for myself, but with all I had a responsibility, and as you know me more than anybody, is I am, I'm a stand-up guy. I'm a hardworking guy. So within a matter of a couple of months, I had my own business, construction business. I went from $75 in the bank to making, 30, 40 grand a year installing garage.
Which is big back then. Yeah.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, we had a nice house, and my daughter was born, and everything was A-okay. Now, I was still playing music for fun, and at that time, I was a pretty accomplished bass player. And there was some brothers, the Morris brothers. Now, John Morris is the guitar player in a band called Dig from Los Angeles, which I know you know.
I remember Dig, with Anthony played drums as well.
Exactly.
On that band. Yeah.
And they had that song, Believe, which was a huge hit for them. They're on the clips or whatever on MTV. And their brother Ian, or his brother Ian, and his brother Derek, all very talented individuals and heavy beer drinkers at the time. Had a band called Turd, which was this sort of Iggy Pop, John Spencer blues explosion, just a little out of tune and never
in a cool way. Yeah.
Man, we could talk a good game, and our rehearsals were amazing, but come showtime, it never could happen. Somebody just spent too much time, with their dealer or at the bar or whatever. And it was just always a disaster. But our first record was Turd Up the Volume, which was an EP. And then we went to the LP. We had a record deal on 13 Grade Records in Hollywood. And they brought us out there, and we did Turdsville, USA, which was our first and our second album. And we had plans to do the third record, which was titled the Turd World War, but we never got that far.
You're really milking the puns, aren't you?
How could you not with a name like that? The Brown album? Give me a break. But,
yes.
So it was honestly, I listened back to that stuff, and I'm just amazed at how really true it was and how honest it was. And and Ian Morris was this singer, main songwriter in the band, and sort of, had a really interesting vocal tone. And as I started to, sing more with Ian, I sort of developed that growl with him to sort of match up with him, which turned into the way I kind of sing now, a little bit of it, especially the early Beasto stuff.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
that was part of your upbringing, sort of the germination, the seeds of Beasto.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what? Turd is a really good fertilizer for that. I can get on the puns too, huh?
Hey, you know what? From the turd, think about it, was,
if you guys would have held out.
Flower.
if you would have held long enough for like the streaming world, and you just would have lasted together, you could have had, your greatest hits would have been Download, the ultimate download.
Yeah.
How about that turd? The ultimate download collection.
The best one ever. And we'll move on from this.
We'll move on now?
So you guys know Ian's an amazing artist, did most of my tattoos and things like that. But anyway, he had developed this character, and it was a picture of the King, Elvis Presley, on the toilet with pills everywhere and a flying V in the background. And he's hunched over, and you're not sure if he's alive or dead, but you can pretty much imagine. But it said, "Death of the King, birth of the turd." So,
oh no, man.
Yeah, it was great. But anyways, it was.
I think we need to move on because
we moved to Los Angeles because we were going to be big rock stars, and that didn't last that long. But anyway, from there, I stayed in Los Angeles and then formed the Droots, which was turd backwards. With brother Lafon, who's now the guitar player in Beasto Blanco. And so that was the beginning of us collaborating and starting a band. And so from there, it turned into Beasto. And on our first record, songs like Live Fast, Die Loud and the self-titled song Beasto Blanco are all sort of riffs from I Beg to Differ, is all riffs from the Droots.
Wow. See, yeah. So it does kind of go back to saying, when I'm at clinics or whatever I'm doing, when I'm in front of a crowd, I say, always be cool to the people you're playing with right now, because they'll usually lead you to your next gig. And that obviously happened with me, with Gilby Clarke, and, with Candy evolving into his solo stuff, and then Alice seeing us from there. But you're saying that so many of the, not just the ideas, but the actual members, Brother Latham, started with the Droots. That's very cool.
Yeah. It was really cool, man, and it's a journey, right? It's this thing, and I think in general, I mean, obviously the thing there is just be nice to the people around you, because I mean, regardless what happens, you never know what people are going to offer. I mean, think about it. You couldn't do this show without Vic coming around, and you've made a relationship with him, and using his super talents and. And Vic's one of those guys that you're not quite sure what was gonna. Here's this guy. He's a fan, but he's also becomes a friend and becomes somebody that we can.
There he is, folks. Everybody, give Vic a big shout out.
Hey, listen, I'm very fond of Vic. He came out and he spent what was it, a day or so with a couple of days with Beasto during our tour. You're muted.
You're muted. Exactly what he told you not to do. He just did. There you go. Beasto Carmo.
Got a free. It was so much fun. We had a great time.
Yeah. And I remember everyone just fell in love with you, and it was super comfortable, and you were at Rocklahoma with us, and it was just nice to see how the relationships come from, someone buying the VIP package and sitting front row with their brown Ryan Roxie t-shirt on.
Look what he's wearing today, though. Look what he's wearing today. He's sporting the colors. And I think there's some people listening in watching the chat. I think they're wearing their Beasto gear today as well, too. So, Vic, real quick. Oh, look at that. Available at beastoblanco.com. There you go. Already, did you have any question or quick comment that you wanted to make before I give you the hook? Because I want to give you the hook.
Give me the hook.
Okay. Yeah, just give you the hook now.
I am curious about Chuck's workout regimen. Everybody knows Chuck for his abs, and I know you have a real strict diet and all that sort of stuff, but a lot of people are real curious about what you do. I know you're working the farm, you're out there sawing wood and all that kind of stuff, but what else?
I'm giving them the hook. What's the whole thing we said? We said
your workout regimen.
Vodka and soda.
Yeah, skinny bitch. I wish I was regimented. I wish I was routine. I'm not, Vic. I mean, truth be told, if you look at my mom now, she's 81 years old and she's ripped and she's still tiny. And I was blessed with some good genetics. But yes, I mean, I do eat clean. I am, I have a high blood sugar, high glucose. So I have to make sure that I watch what I eat. So I try to eat as clean as possible, stay on a strict high protein diet. I don't work out weights really at all. I do mostly just yoga and stretching at the house.
Unless it's 20 minutes before a show, then you're working out the stuff. You're working out with
light. If I do any weights at all, I do very, very light. I think the most I'll ever get into is maybe 15 pounds at the most. Just because I've always been a fan of somebody like Bruce Lee. Was sort of his body type I was a big fan of as a kid. I remember I used to take a lot of karate. And as a young kid, I did work out a lot, but I always did light weights because somebody somewhere told me if you want definition, you're going to want to just keep lightweight. So that's just sort of something I've done my whole life. I've never wanted to bulk up, and that's never been something that's been a desire of mine. But my body, my muscle metabolism, and my muscles, they react very quickly to workouts, and so if I do get a new routine or a new exercise or something like that, I can notice changes immediately. So I'm an X-Man, pretty much, is what I'm saying.
But what I think you have is discipline. That, I think, helps you more than so many other things that obviously you could do to even strengthen your body more. But the discipline that you have not to eat certain things, because I'm with you on the road. Me and you are bus buddies. We're poker buddies. We're golf buddies. We hang around each other a lot when we're on the road. And I see you. I see the way you eat. I see how healthy you do. And let's admit, diet is a big part of it. And
it's everything.
Yeah. Not everything, because you got exercises too. I've seen you do you do your thing, man.
I do. I try to do something every day, and especially when I'm on the road. But I mean, look, you can look at pictures. I mean, I'm going to use this word. It's so funny. But I do fluctuate. I've been heavier, and those times where you see that there's not so much definition. Those are the times I think I was realizing something was wrong. And that's when I had gone to the doctor and realized that my A1Cs were higher than everybody else. So I'd realized that I was eating too many items that had too much sugar in them. So I had to really watch that. So carbs and sugar were the main thing, and I had to educate myself on that stuff.
For everyone.
And I know alcohol is a big part of it, and I try to stay good with that stuff. I don't overindulge, and if I do have a night where we're having a good time, then I'll take the next couple of days off. It's just all about moderation, and having things not consuming all, just taking little bites as you go on through life.
There you go. Did that answer your question there, Mr. Vic?
Are you going to give me the hook now? Is that
I'm
what
giving you the hook.
But real quick, I will say this. The most important thing I ever did, and this is the truth, was I discovered meditation and I discovered yoga. And when I learned about those things and the effect that they had on me, has absolutely changed everything. So I would definitely recommend the three things would be diet, meditation, and yoga. And just go from there. And you know what, man? Be happy with what you got.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
I'm going to give myself the hook.
I'm going to
Well, the one thing we did talk about is, like we said before we met with you, Chuck, we said the group, the sort of team, we said, well, as long as the conversation is going one way, let's not steer it another way. Okay.
Go ahead.
And whatever you do, remember to unmute your mic. So Vic comes on with a muted mic and then takes the conversation a hard left. But thank you. I'm gonna
Ryan, you did that one thing you should never do, and that's have a plan. You know better than anybody.
Damn it. All right.
You have a plan.
I'm pulling this sucker. I'm pulling it back on track to the rock because again, between the turds and the droots, I did not know all that history existed before. And I think a lot of the listeners did not know, as a lot of listeners might not know what I might consider your big break. I don't know if you consider it your big break, but you got hired to play bass. And that's how I first met you, with the man, Ronnie James Dio. Please tell that story about how, do you consider that one of your big breaks?
It was not only one of my big breaks, but I think it was like in a weird way, I was almost like born again. It was one of the most amazing experience I've ever had in my life. And I still to this day thank Ronnie and think of Ronnie every time I hit the stage. What that man did for me and what he gave to me without him even knowing it is something I'll forever be grateful for. I was on tour as a bass player for a Los Angeles bass band called LA Guns. I did a 3-month tour with them in the summer of '99. And after that tour, they reformed as the Original. And I was out of a job, which was okay. I think I made in 3 months, made like $700 or something like that. So believe me, I wasn't too upset. But I was always grateful for Tracy and Steve and Jizzy and those guys for giving me the opportunity, and we'll forever be brothers because of that time we spent together.
Yeah. I had a little side question, just to take a little detour, not a hard left like Vic would do, but a little side one. Isn't it true that when you were playing with LA Guns, there was you were basically a support band, but the headlining band wouldn't allow you to take your shirt off?
Come on, man. I was told, yes, by the headlining band's lead singer,
okay,
that he would prefer if I didn't take my shirt off.
Oh, talk dirty to me. Come on, let's go. Come on.
I
can't believe that.
Or not, but it's kind of, at that time I was so green. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm going, yeah. We'll see what happens. I'll push the envelope, see if I get kicked off the tour. But no repercussions, man. We had
looked at him and said, you know what? Open up and say, because my body's great, but we're not going to name names. We're not going to pull out anybody in that story, but go ahead.
Under the bus.
How do you like that? Yeah. So anyway, I'd like to continue on how that Dio gig happened.
Go ahead real quick. So with the Dio thing, so Chris Leahy was my bass tech for Alice Cooper, which I'm sure some of you longtime Alice Cooper fans may have run across Leahy. And he was also a really good friend of mine and a bass player, but he was teching for Jimmy Bain at the time, and had heard that Jimmy couldn't leave the U.S. because of visa issues, and that they were going to look for a new bass player. And the first guy that they wanted to have come back was Bob Daisley, who is a big fan of mine. I'm a big fan of his. I love Bob's bass playing, and you all know Bob from Uriah Heep and Rainbow.
Huge records that he played, all the Ozzy albums.
Yeah,
right?
He's an amazing guy, amazing bass player. So anyway, but Chris luckily spoke up and said, hey, I know a guy who knows all your songs. He just got off tour with LA Guns, and
he's got a valid passport.
Here's the story. So I get a call from Wendy Dio. I'll never forget. Out of nowhere, she just calls me and says, I got your number from Chris Leahy, and we'd like to audition you for Ronnie's band. Would you like to audition? And I said, of course I would. So she said, great. And I want to say she emailed me the songs to learn, but I don't think I had email. I might have had an email at that time, but she anyway gave me the songs to learn.
She faxed them at that point.
She may have just told me, and I wrote them down using a pen and paper, old school. But,
courier pigeon. I don't know.
Yeah. So I went home immediately and I learned the songs. It never really kind of sunk in what I was actually doing, other than I thought this is a long shot, and why would I get this? But I'm going to do the best I can. And I knew the songs. I knew all the Black Sabbath stuff and the Rainbow stuff and the Dio stuff. I was such a huge fan. So walked into rehearsal in Los Angeles, or actually the Valley, and Ronnie was just so welcoming and such a wonderful guy. And Craig Goldie was playing guitar. Simon Wright was on drums. Scott Warren was a keyboard player, but wasn't there that day. And it was just Craig, Simon, myself, and Ronnie. And we introduced to each other and had a nice little conversation. Everything felt really nice and natural. Everybody was really, really great guys. And obviously I knew all of them. Simon was in AC/DC, and Goldie was in Dio's band for all those years. And I think even Jafria. And of course, there's Ronnie himself. But we ended up jamming 4 tunes. And after the songs went, and they went really well, I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is going great. Ronnie asked me, he says, so do you have a passport? And I said, yeah, which was a complete lie. I never thought I'd ever even leave the country. I had a driver's license, but I had no passport.
Oh shit! So you didn't have a valid passport? I thought that was a given. No,
I didn't have a passport, and I
scrambling.
I said yes because I knew if I said no, then there goes the audition, right? And he said, "What are you doing in November?" So it's August at this time in 1999, and I said nothing. And he says, "Well, we're going to go on tour with Motorhead and Manowar, and the first date's in Copenhagen, and goes through all of Denmark and Sweden, and, Norway, and I think those were the main parts. It was a Scandinavian type tour. Would you be available for that?" And I said, absolutely. He said, all right, well, here's the set list. He had it printed out and gave it to me, and said, welcome.
And you're
like, I was like, oh my God, this just happened. And I packed up my stuff and was making small talk as I went into my car. And at the time I had a 1978 primer red Camaro V8.
Nice, man, actually.
And I went in there and I cried my eyeballs out like a baby. Yeah. I could not believe that I just
tears of happiness
with Dio, which was a dream of mine, but then got offered the opportunity to go on tour with him. And the reason why I was crying was because I didn't have a passport. So I immediately
and how do you get one?
I immediately went to the post office.
That's where you go. Yeah.
I didn't know what to do, and I'd heard that's where I'd go. So I went to the post office. I signed up for a passport. But
then you got to get those square pictures. They weren't digital back then. I think we had to go to some dude that would have a special camera that only did passport photos, right?
Yeah, it was an experience. I was just so nervous. I remember filling out the application, it just taking my time to make sure I didn't mess anything up so I could get this thing. And I didn't know when I was going to get it. I filled out the application, paid my money, took the picture, sent it in the mail, and September 22nd, I get a call from Windy Dio's office. And how are you doing? I said, I'm doing fine. And I just happened to go to the mailbox that day. And we're talking on the phone. This was the time when you got the phone kind of connected to the wall still,
Curly cord.
Yeah. But anyway, it's not that long ago. I probably had wireless. But anyway, she said, hey, we need some information from you. And I go, yeah, what do you need? She says, we need your passport information. And I looked down at the mail, and there it was. It just came in. And I gave her
school special, baby. That's an after school special story.
Give her my passport number, and they say date of issue. And I say September 22nd, 1999, which was that day that they called me.
Damn.
And I was just thinking, when I said it, I was waiting for them to go, you didn't have a passport the entire time, right? It was meant to be, man. And we knew it. I was on a plane. And one more quick story about the Dio thing was we did only about 2 or 3 more rehearsals before we left for tour. And the rest we learned from home. And so when I got to Denmark, we flew in. I had no idea how anything worked. I didn't know hotel rooms, per diems, anything. And I immediately met one of my dear friends to this day, instantly met him as we walked into the elevator together. Mickey D, drummer from Motorhead, and now we've been lifelong friends since that time. But I had no idea what was going on. And so we went and did sound check, and it did not go well. We didn't have much time, and it was we were having a hard time. Ronnie was having a hard time with the monitors. We never even really got through more than 1.5 songs. We didn't get enough time. It did not go well. So I remember I was backstage, and we're getting ready to go on stage, and I look at Ronnie and I said, hey man, what is happening? What's the intro? And he goes, oh yeah. There's an intro tape. It'll go on, and you'll hear a bunch of noises, scary noises, and then a lady will scream, and Simon will give you a 4 count, and then you start the song Evolution. And I'm like, oh, would you da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da, and I'm playing along with the drums. But so we never rehearsed that.
No, that wasn't part of the script. All
that
right,
was not part of the rehearsal or anything. So now I'm on stage, and one of those things where like immediately the lights go out and I go on stage before everybody else. The intro was going on. I am on stage. My bass is up. I've got my foot on the monitors, and I'm just sitting there like
waiting for someone to scream.
Waiting for something to happen because I wasn't going to be caught, backstage. And Simon goes, and I just go, da, 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 da. I ripped into it, and the lights go on, and there was all these metal heads that I hadn't seen because I've been in this alternative world in Los Angeles where metal was dead, man. But here I was in Europe where it was just alive, and it was, oh man, it was electric. And
man, dude,
it
seems like all that energy has transcended into what you put into Beasto, because there is that punk vibe, there is that sort of alternative vibe that you have with Beasto, but at the end of the day, there's still that straight ahead, bang your head, jump around, and be squashed together type of thing that you can only get at a hard rock metal concert. And I love the way that you've been able to take all that experience and put it into your own band right now. Fuck, I would really like to just have a whole episode about pre-Beasto, and then do a part 2 with Beasto. But I'm going to try and bring Beasto into the conversation because honestly, if you will indulge, I would love to have a part 2 where we can just BS about us being in Alice Cooper and stuff. But I really wanted our viewers to sort of find a little bit about Chuck Garric that they might not have known, because I know a lot of them have followed you from Beasto since the early days, 2013, when it formed up until now, but they might not have heard those old stories. So like I said, obviously I want to talk about the new stuff that you're doing with Beasto, but we got to come back and sort of fill in the gaps with how we met through Alice, because that actually happened right when you were in Dio.
Yeah.
And we met at a pre-Sweden rock concert or sort of hangout where all the bands were hanging out, and it was like Sweden Rock 2 or 3. I think it was Yngwie. It was the second one, right? Ever. So it was Yngwie Malmsteen, Ronnie James Dio, Alice Cooper. Those were the 3 main acts, and probably Europe at that time, but we didn't know, or Electric Boys, or there was definitely, it was a lot of Swedish bands at that time that were supporting that festival because it was young, it was new, it was something crazy happening in the south of Sweden, but we felt the energy, and I think there was only 2 stages back at that point.
Yeah, there was 2 stages. Wow. Yeah. I remember driving in, dude. I remember driving in because if you remember, you would drive in on your bus and there was this big cyclone fence, and then you could see the stages. They were like, one stage is north and south, and then there was this big fence where everybody's in, and they had this black visqueen blocking the fence from the top to, so you would see people's bodies. Sorry, I'm in my robe, but you would only see this much of their bodies from the fence down. And there was a line of about 50 dudes in their Euro penises taking a look on the fence as we drove by. And I wish so badly I had an iPhone back then, because Wendy was on the bus and she turned a bright red shade, and we were laughing so hard because never in all my life have I seen so many of the same
uncircumcised penises. Euro penis equals uncircumcised for those of you keeping score at home.
It was amazing, and it was so hilarious. But that's where I met you. I saw you. I was in the pit when you guys played, because remember, we switched. You guys had you guys were going to miss a flight.
Yeah.
So we had to switch slots. Ronnie was supposed to open for Alice, but we switched to give you guys enough time to get to your next flight. So I got to see you guys before we went on. And that was my first time. I obviously knew of you, but I never really got this chance to see you. And I remember watching that band, and it was you specifically. I was thinking, God damn, I want to be in a band with that guy. And
Be careful what you wish for.
Bass player. I would be the perfect bass player for Alice Cooper.
Damn, you said that back then, and
I
then
said it.
that is the ultimate, folks, imagining your reality, or because you put it out there to the world. I want to be in a band like this. You became in many bands like that because you played in more lineups than I think anyone else in the Alice Cooper band. Different types of lineups. That's a killer story, man.
And,
I mean,
I remember real quick too, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I remember watching. I was just so mesmerized by the whole thing. And then, when Calico came out, I was just thinking, this is a world I want to belong in. Right. I want to belong in this world with these people. It looked so creative and fun. And there was an element there that it was intriguing, and I just wanted to just sort of step my foot into the circle and see what it was like to be in a band with those type of performers, especially somebody as talented as Calico and
right.
her dad and in the band, and having
that was during the Brutal Planet tour, and I remember it well.
All that stuff, and it just seemed like this massive production, and there's no talking, and it's just straight ahead. And don't get me wrong, being in Ronnie's band was the same way. It was so demanding musically, and I honestly say, without being in Dio, I don't think I could have ever been transcended
made that transition. Yeah.
Because Ronnie was the type of guy who, if you made a mistake, he would look right at you. He would look at you and he would acknowledge that, hey, he knows, he's listening, and he could sing your bass part. He could sing your background harmony. He could sing your guitar lead. He could sing the keyboard part. That guy was on it. So I was so precise with him, and thank God for that, because it's helped me with Alice.
Damn, sounds like Prince. Sounds like you're playing in a band with Prince or Steven Tyler.
Man, that's why it's so weird when Alice never says really anything. And Ronnie used to have meetings after every show.
Yeah, that is a big difference with Alice. Alice, though, hears things.
Yeah,
that he chooses his moments when to bring it up, and that's why I always say he's the coolest boss to ever you could ever ask for, because he'll think about something. He'll really take a step back, think about it before he steps in and says something. But then when he says it, you better change it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
it's very true. Alice believes that the one thing I love about Alice is that he does truly believe that he is surrounded by the best musicians in the world. He surrounds himself with people he trusts. And he knows that we're going to work hard. I think you and I, hey, there you go. Hey, Coop.
Yeah. Well,
I think he's looking at me. He doesn't even care.
No, because you know what? The last time that happened, where Alice went through one of those things, is when Glenn Sobel wore white tennis shoes for a string of shows, and he didn't say anything until about the third or fourth show. And then what did he say? He said, "Glenn, change your shoes," and he did, and everything was great after that.
Everything was fun.
Yeah, it's an all-black policy. You know that. Well, hey, man, let's move on real quick, because, like I said, I do want to have a part 2 eventually where we talk about all the things Alice, and of course dive deeper into Beasto. But currently with Beasto, because I know this, you've obviously started since 2013. This is now your 4th album, like or is it third album? Would you call it
record 1 live album?
Yeah. So it would be the 4th.
Yeah,
4th actually release, and that is We Are right now.
Yeah.
That is the current lineup. Do you want to talk about the current lineup and how this album We Are came to be, and where people can find it right now if they don't already own it?
Yeah. So current lineup. Bring up that picture again, Vic. There you go. That picture was taken by Vic, correct?
Yeah. Is that it? Yeah. Well, he wouldn't put it up if it wasn't.
So. So from right to left, we got Sean Sellers on drums. I don't know why I told him he needs to wear a shirt. It should only be one person taking the shirt off.
That sounds like a certain lead singer from a certain headlining band.
Listen, you know what? I'll let this one slide.
Oh, boy.
Then obviously, of course, the dangerous and ever so talented Calico Cooper.
Yep.
Look how high her hips are. She's so much taller than the rest of us.
And she looks like she's literally trying to crush your spine with her elbow. Why is that? Why is she doing that?
I think she's just, making room. Get out of the way, kid. Then myself and my best pal, brother Lafon there.
You guys are always screaming at each other.
He had his pick in his mouth. Yeah, I was trying to do my best Slayer. Remember the first Slayer record, the back of the Slayer album? They had a cool picture of them. Right. It always looks so real to me.
You say Slayer. I always say Sha Na Na Bowser.
Yeah. And then Jan LeGrau from Germany, California. We say he's born and raised in Germany, still lives in Germany, but has a huge California tattoo across his chest. Yeah, that's the band. That's the lineup, man. And the record is called We Are, our latest release. And we've been touring on that. We support of the record. We toured with Hailstorm last year. I think
that was last year with Palais Royale.
Yeah, Palais Royale and
Beasto Blanco and
guys. Yeah, what a great tour that was. I mean, I really felt like we became a band on that tour. That's Rocklahoma right there. Yeah, and with my ESP, my Black Beauty.
That's another thing. That's one of the questions, because one of the easy things about this gig for me today was, one, I hang out with you a lot, so there's never a dull moment for us to not talk about. But I felt it would be easy to put up on my Instagram stories, like, is there any questions that you want to ask Beasto? And then I wouldn't have to do as much work, go looking for those hard ass questions. So basically, I found a few things that people sent in, and one person actually wrote, would you rather play bass for Alice Cooper or guitar for Beasto Blanco? Or are you in that perfect world of balance? Yeah, would you? Guitarist for Beasto Blanco, bassist for Alice Cooper?
Well, I do try to find balance. I try to find balance in everything I do in life. I am definitely, and this is the truth, I am a bass player. It's an instrument that once it was in my hands felt very natural. Guitar to me is something I still want to do. I read an interview with Lemmy, and I don't even have to say his last name because we all know who Lemmy is, or what band. But anyway, he was saying that he played guitar first, and he was such an awful guitar player that he switched to bass. And that is very similar to the way I feel when I am playing guitar. It's actually just recently I feel like I'm starting to play guitar and not play bass with a guitar. I have a tendency that I'm picking really hard, or I'm, because of my aggressive way of singing and the way I'm playing. But I've learned through the years with practice that, to play lighter and to learn to play guitar differently than when I would play bass. But I'm much better and much more comfortable with the bass guitar around my neck than I am with the guitar right now. And,
I've seen you in both, so I can sort of critique it from an outsider's point of view, because I've seen it from both.
Yeah.
I think you have two different roles that you shine really equally as far as talent wise, because you shine as a singer, you shine as a front man, as a guitar player, and you use the guitar a little bit like the way Paul Stanley does in Kiss, where it kind of seems like it's an accessory, but at the same time, if it wasn't there in the band, it would completely change the sound of the band. Folks out there, if you don't know how important Paul Stanley is to the sound of Kiss and his rhythm guitar playing and his lead guitar playing, it's so important, and that's the way I look at you in that role. Then as far as the bass player in Alice Cooper, well, it's just solid. I always feel that, you can be just the bass player that hangs out in the back and looks cool, the Phil Mogg of UFO sort of guy, or that sort of cool vibe. But then as soon as you come to the front, I see that you being a lead bass player is not out of the question. It's much. How many pictures did you take of them, Vic? You would have the whole portfolio. I love it. He is on fire. All right. So enough of me brown nosing my
hey,
compadre that I'm on the stage right with every night. But go ahead.
Real quick though, let me just add to this. I think that what I've learned with, like, especially because I listen very closely to what's going on around me every night. I mean, I in my in-ear mix, I have a really solid, well-rounded record quality mix, and and with bass obviously being a little bit louder, but I have Ryan in my ears, I have Tommy in my ears, I have Nita, Tommy's in my left side, Ryan's in my right, Nia's pan center. Yeah. But I listen because I listen to, especially Ryan's playing in a way, because you pick out melodies, stuff that's not even on the record, but yet it sounds like it should be. And it's very artistic the way you play guitar, and you create things out of thin air and out of there's such musicality in it. And so with Beasto, I try to incorporate the guys that have inspired me to play guitar, and I treat it more of just like I'm learning more of it as a canvas. So with Beasto, I'm more free because it is sort of my thing. If I want to try something new, I can. And I try to just sort of paint a picture in the song. And I love bands like Sonic Youth, where I just feel like the guitar is just a paintbrush of stuff going on and sounds. And I want to incorporate more of that, with my guitar playing, because I think being a lead guitar player is not something I strive for as much as I strive for to be an artist with the guitar.
Well, I think personality wise, the fact that you are so, like I said, you're diligent, and you definitely have this certain way of doing things with your lifestyle that it can be regimented, and it's good. It's called discipline, right? But then musically, you always sort of lean a little bit more to the messy, like you said, and maybe a notes, a little bit out of tune there. And that blend is a perfect blend of that punk energy, but still heaviness that you have to have for that type of music that Beasto plays.
It has to be there, man. I have to feel alive on stage. Otherwise, it can just be very regimented
on a time code
every night. Now we got to mix it up to feel alive, dude. I want to stand on the edge of a cliff and look down and just have my heart racing for a second. Otherwise, I want to feel alive.
All right, I'm going to go on to one more question from the crowd, that from my Insta interviewers, my Insta sort of crack team of studiers that wanted to know about. Well, I'm not going to get to that question yet. First bass ever. Your first bass ever, because I know you are a connoisseur of the finer basses in life, whether it's a Fender P bass, or if it's jazz bass, or if it's the Gibson Thunderbird like you have, and now it's Epiphone that you've been currently endorsing. What was your first bass, and what are your basses that you're playing now?
Well, okay, so I started off playing the trumpet in elementary school.
Shit, that was mine too. Trumpet too.
Yeah,
how did we both end up playing trumpet?
Ronnie Dio played the trumpet as well, and he was a bass player. That's what he played, but he also played the trumpet. So my first bass, and this will definitely, aside from the color of my beard, show my age a little bit. I ordered my first bass from a catalog, a Sears catalog. Because now remember, I grew up in a very small town. There was less than, I think, 15,000 people where I grew up. It was not there was more people on the block in my apartment building I lived in LA than there was in my entire city I grew up in. And so there was a little window. It was almost like a little tiny shop. It had, a door you would open up, and you would go there with your order form that you ordered from this catalog, and you send the money, and in 4 weeks go check to see if your shipment has come in. So I had ordered a bass through Sears catalog, and it was called a Global, and it was shaped like a Fender P bass.
How very Jack White of you.
Yeah.
How about Global,
that? Black with gold horizontal stripes, 3 of them, and then a Global emblem on the headstock. And the bass neck itself, as you know, is supposed to have a slight bend. This thing did like a U-turn. It was just a disaster.
Did you play that in Touch of Class?
I did.
Okay, you go, dude. If anyone can find a picture of Chuck's first bass and Touch of
It's
Class,
gone,
that's a
It's
winner.
gone. And the funny thing is, Ryan, if you remember, and you know, because we're the same age, but I'll never forget when I was a kid, I wanted a mongoose bicycle, a motocross.
Oh, of course. I wanted a monoshock. I actually wanted to call my band Monoshock because I thought. Do you remember the bike? It had a shock in the middle of the bike, so that could kind of compress. But the mongoose was like actually kind of a really cool. It's like
mongoose, and it had the gooseneck. It had the gooseneck.
It was before BMX. They called it motocross.
No,
right, or something like that.
It was called BMX, I think, at that time.
But
I called them mongoose really bad. They were light aluminum framed bikes, and we could do more tricks on jumps and things like that. And at the time, I had from Kmart, which was called a Huffy. And the Huffy was made out of like metal.
Lead.
It was just to pop a wheelie on a Huffy was like, it took effort, and you couldn't really get it to go that far.
It was made out of Chernobyl tin.
And my dad said, when you can pop a wheelie on a Huffy, I'll get you a mongoose.
Wow, that's cool.
So I would practice every day, lifting up this Huffy, and God would weigh 700 pounds. And I finally could do a wheelie for, whatever it was, 20 feet, whatever. And I ended up getting the Huffy. And so when I bought my global bass, that was sort of until I need to be able to pop a wheelie on this global before I can get a Fender.
Shit, man. You know what? I was lucky. I sort of slid into that by nepotism, or I don't know, nepotism, just nice grandparents. My grandpa, I remember coming out from Indiana, Hammond, Indiana. They came to visit in California. He went to a bike shop. It was my grandma, actually. Not my grandpa. My grandma bought me a Schwinn Stingray. It was that green Stingray, and then I wanted to put on the motocross handlebars, and then the cool. It was always about the grips for me, wasn't it? Didn't you have to get special grips as well?
Yeah, of course. Now, go ahead. Ask me what happened to the Huffy.
What happened to the Huffy, Chuck?
I left it in my driveway and went in for dinner.
No luck.
And someone took it. And so a couple of days later, my friend goes, "Hey, I've seen your Huffy." And I go, "Where is it?" And he goes, "I saw it parked behind this, it was like this abandoned television housing thing, which is only a couple blocks away from my house." So I went there to go find it, and there it was. And I went to go take it back. And the Menendez brothers were a little bit of the rougher side of the tracks, and they're the ones who took it.
Well, they killed their parents, or are we talking about the long Menendez?
No, their last name was Menendez.
Okay, I think it's Menendez.
And I was young at the time, and I was a little kid. I was just a small guy, even though even in high school I was only like 90 pounds. Anyway, I went to take my bike back, and that was my first ass kicking. They kicked the shit out of me.
You were trying to repo your own bike.
I took my bike back, and I got beat up. And they took off with my bike again. Damn it!
I'm happy that we have a show like this, because if this was basically some sort of if it was a blabbermouth interview, we would have to stick to the music. But instead, I asked you about a bass, and we end up talking about you getting your ass kicked by a Huffy.
Trying to take my own bike back, which now.
And it was a Huffy that you get your ass kicked for. Damn it!
They were big. They were tough kids. I remember watching them fight each other. They were brothers, and they would fight each other at times, and it was brutal, and it was scary, and I was scared, man. But I wanted my bike, and they took it from me, and we never saw it again. Of course, I had two older brothers that were also really good at the fisticuffs.
Oh, okay.
They taught me how to fight from that point on, and they told me next time I see them to, they showed me what to do and how to defend myself. And I never did see the guys again, and never did see that bike.
I know that you're there. Or a picture of Touch of Class. We want it. The thing is, though, Chuck, you're pretty mild-mannered guy. I mean, you're pretty zen most of the time, but you have a sense of right and wrong. And I've seen you at points, and maybe it's because we're not big guys. We're kind of like we're kind of good rock and roll size, 5'8", 5 around there. If you ask my wife, I'm 5'7", but if you ask me, I'm 5'9", somewhere around there. So the thing is, I've seen you when it's a case of this is not a right thing to do. You learn different languages, because we were in Germany. I think it might have been Wacken, or it was one of those German fest shows that we were doing. And somebody tried to peek into Nita Strauss's dressing room while she was dressing. And you just went like ballistic in the dressing room. You jumped up, you look out the window and you go, "Das ist verboten." And I was like, holy shit, he speaks German.
The dude would be like, how did he know that?
So don't mess with Chuck. Don't fuck with Chuck. That's my new hashtag. Don't fuck with Chuck.
Don't fuck with Chuck. Well, because I was in a band with Jan, who's from Germany, and I picked up some of the words. And I think actually, "Das ist verboten" was something I had. Brian Nelson, Alice's old assistant.
Alice Renfield.
It's one of those perfect time in your life where it worked. It worked so perfectly, and it was, the timing couldn't have been better, and there was a lot of humor behind it. Yeah, I don't learn different languages. I learn different words and phrases from different languages.
So from that first bass, you moved on obviously to Gibson, to Epiphone, and what are you're currently playing? Because aren't you currently playing like a Sparkle sort of masterpiece?
Yeah, so I've got as you know, I've switched to Gibson basses. I'm using my Thunderbird, the Tobacco Thunderbird.
Sounds great.
The Epiphone, the white Epiphone that we used a lot in this last run. There's tons of pictures Vic has of those. Bring one up, Vic. White Thunderbird.
Vic's like, why are you doing this to me? They're not. I didn't take any pictures of White Thunderbird.
No, that's the one. It's all right.
Close enough.
You are. So I got the white one, and then Epiphone. Gibson was so gracious to build me a replica of the white one, and they stripped it and put a nice sparkle silver on it. It's beautiful, and it has the original pick guard, one of the old original pick guards from the Nicky Sixx's Thunderbirds, his signature basses. So that is on there as well, from one that one of the builders had collected through the years and thought it would be perfect place for it to live on that bass.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. Well, so see, I got one more question to you from my Insta Story crack team of top men working on it and women working on the questions.
Yeah.
Because, well, there's actually two more sort of points that I'll get before we sort of wind things down. But honestly, Chuck, thank you so much, by the way, for coming on these things, because I know sometimes we tend to run a little bit long, but it's because your stories are so entertaining that I feel we need a part 2, and we will, but I don't mind going a little bit longer if you don't mind.
I don't mind. You're a great host, man. This is your thing. I've always encouraged you to have your own show of some sort. You're a great host. You ask the right questions. I always feel comfortable talking to you. It's obviously it's easy because I'm talking to one of my best friends and somebody who knows me so well, and I know so well. We're friends of families and all the stuff in between. And I just think what you're doing is fantastic, man. And
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry you had to bring me on because but one day,
you're the headliner, man. Are you kidding me? You're breaking all the records right now. You're breaking the internet. And I know we were talking before the show that you might put out your own show but that's all in the works, all on the down low. If it comes out, I think it's a great idea, just so you know. But the love from the chat has been amazing so far. One of the things before I dive into my last sort of, obviously what everyone here has been chatting about all day, is you are known for a lot of your tattoos that you have, because you do have a lot of work done. And of course, which is quite funny because the guy that you play next to, and both the guys you play next to, have 0. You're sandwiched in between Alice and I. So we're like an opposite Oreo. It's like 2 stuffs and 1 Oreo cookie right there. But you have a lot of cool tattoos. One of the questions was, which is the one that's most meaningful to you and that you have?
Well, I have my daughter's handprint.
That is very cool. Right on your back, right? I remember that.
Shoulder. I think it's this one.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait. I don't know. It's on this arm. So
how old was she when she did? And a lot of people.
Okay, so
go ahead.
I don't really think of tattoos to get them to have some sort of meaning. I've never really taken tattoos that way. When I was getting tattoos at a young age, I just strictly renamed them girl getters. They're just something to just kind of go along with the music vibe. And my buddy Ian did tattoos. I got my first tattoo from picking one off the wall there at some biker tattoo place in North Hollywood. But the one with my daughter Alicia's handprint was really had a lot of significance to me, because for most of you who don't know, I was a single dad from when Alicia was 1 year old. When her mom and I split, I had full custody of Alicia, and I raised her, pretty much on my own for the first 9 years of her life. Although, with all respect to her mother, she's a wonderful woman and a great mom. She was involved. It's just I had a lot more time with my daughter.
And you still managed to split rock and roll, working, making the ends meet, and raising a daughter. And I think that's very, very, very commendable, man.
Yeah. And so at the age of 9, she had decided that she wanted to see what it was like to live at mom's house. And I don't even know why I did this, but she did. She wanted to go live with her mom. And I thought that was important for her and for her mother as well. And I was so busy on the road. So I had her put her handprint on a piece of paper and took it into this girl to reverse, obviously. And then she put it on my arm and tattooed it. And that sort of was just a way for her to always sort of be there.
That's amazing, man. Yeah. See, that is a good question. Everyone out there, I will do this more up for part 2. I will definitely put out there more questions, because I did want to know which one was the most significant, because you do have work done on both sides and back, and it just keeps going. Do you feel there will be a time when, because you just had one? I remember I think the last one you got was the hand tattoo, right? Yeah. And it was done old school style. It was, and I remember, that didn't feel good.
No, actually it was more. It was not that painful at all, to be quite honest with you, Mo. Actually, this stuff here on my wall is art from that same tattoo artist, Mo. Mo.
Of course, Mo's from Hawaii, right? They're living in Hawaii still.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mo and Monique.
But he did the tattoo on my hand, and it was something that really wasn't even, to be honest with you.
Explain that to some people that don't know, because a lot of people get tattoos with needles, right?
Yeah, with the gun. Yeah.
And this is done by what?
So Mo does the traditional tattooing, which is done by a tapping technique. There's I don't know if I'm going to use the right word, so I'll just use the best way I can explain it. There's sort of a long stick, and it's got one needle in it, and that rests on your skin, and Mo has a specific rhythm that he uses, whatever it is. He has his own rhythm.
It's an art. It's
an art form. It's his own rhythm that he has, and that's how he tattoos you. And there's a traditional way of the significance of what each thing means. I mean, there's different symbolisms on there. Each needle, each tool has its own sort of design on it. And that sort of tells a story. Now, keep in mind, I did not have a choice of whether I didn't even really ask Mo to tattoo me. We were talking, he grabbed my hand and he says, "I want to tattoo your hand." He chose what it was and where it goes.
Man.
And
so a lot of trust you put into him right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love him. He's got such a such an energy about him. And I was very.
Well, you lost me at the big stick with the little needle. I'm out. I'm not ever getting a tattoo that way. Hell no.
I thought it was going to be more painful. And if you remember, we had a concert that night. I played the show.
Holy shit, that's right.
With my hand, and it was swollen. You gave him a hard time. You said. You said, "No, Mo, what did you do to Chuck's hand?" And he was so worried. because it was extremely, it was swollen and it was puffy and there was no definition in the knuckles or anything. But as you can see, it's cool. I like it.
It's turned out amazing. It looks great.
But this is a cool one because it's got a lot of protection there for our type of work and what we go through, and a lot of protection there that I think that came from a real place of love from Mo. Very
good. Cool. Yeah. I mean, all these questions are amazing. I have two more, if that's okay, if you got time for us.
Yeah.
All right? Because these, I mean, if you got to run around and do a bunch of errands, I don't know. You're in Nashville right now. You're kind of in a hot spot, so you might want to just stay in zone. You know, look at the guy in back of you. He's not faring so well.
Yeah. He did not follow the rules at Safer at Home.
He did not.
Right there. It's a reminder.
Regarding Beasto, and this is another thing that maybe not every fan knows, but there's a lot of inspiration from the lyrics come from your wife.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes from poetry. A lot of it comes from collaborations that the two of you actually work on together. How does that work out with the songwriting process? Usually when you have a Beasto song and what Lindsay will come up with.
So the first record, Live Fast, Die Loud, was I'd written most of the lyrics, all of them really, and then there was a little collaboration there on a song called California and Breakdown.
Great song.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd always noticed that, you know, she's an amazing writer with her poetry and just in general. She's somebody who practices writing just as a way to just get it out. It's something she does every morning. She'll journal.
It's her therapy.
Most of her therapy is done from her writing, and I just was like, wow, this is really beautiful lyrics. We should try writing a song together, or this poem. So it just turned out to be one of those things where she had said to me, hey, I wrote a song. Now she doesn't play an instrument, but she had a melody in her head, which was I see the edge of the water like the edge of a grave. And she started humming this to me. Death rattle, death rattle. Yeah. And I was like, wait a minute. So I instantly grabbed my guitar and I and it just was one of those things. And that's honestly, you see that in movies a lot. Like, hold on.
Well, that's the organic process, the real way of writing a song.
First song we wrote together was Death Rattle, and Lindsay's got a really unique way, a really unique talent to her writing, which I don't know how she does it, but she's great at it. One thing she does that's really important is if I write a tune and I have a melody, I will sing. I am instructed to only say nonsense words. So if I have a melody, like whatever it is. I can't say a word, but I got to get the melody with this gibberish. And then she follows sort of the bouncing ball, and she'll write down how many syllables are in each phrase. And then she'll ask me what I was thinking when I wrote it. And then she'll write a song from it. Like the lyrics from Follow the Bleed.
That is a process, man.
It's an amazing process. She also one night, when she was just watching TV, and she said, mute the TV, stop it, turn it off. And I go, what's going on? I thought something happened. And she says, I may not have been born with a crown on my head, but mom gave me muscles and knuckles instead. And I was like, what? She goes, that's your credo. That's who you are. Wow. And I instantly picked up the guitar and we wrote, and I based it sort of off the Dirty Deeds type of a jam, but we wrote that tune kind of thing. And then came in a whole other relationship, because now we're collaborating together. And if it's not sung the way it was written, or if I change this or I change that, it's just like.
Oh, so now all of a sudden you're Garfunkel.
Ooh, man.
Yeah, she's Simon. You're Garfunkel right now, baby.
One of the things she did, I was completely blown away with, which was Solitary Rave, because that was her spending time with Calico, and they just.
So much love for Lindsay, man. So much more.
Have a moment, and Calico telling her her story of how she does this thing and a solitary rave, and it was sort of it was an inspiration.
Well, we just had Solitary Rave air on the last Sunday live stream Sunday, which those of you can check it out right now. It's episode 8, or you can go on to Beasto's Facebook or homepage, wherever. I know you have it posted because you just did a solitary sort of isolation video with one of those songs on that was I know it was with a German Rolling Stone, and it was, some territories weren't able to air it, but now it's available everywhere. I know I've seen it on your Facebook, and I know it's on our last episode of Sunday Livestream Sunday. So if you are watching on YouTube, you can just subscribe to our YouTube channel and check it out right after we finish up here. But how did that all come about with that? And how was it? How was that?
That was from Calico. Her, as we all know, Calico is an actress as well, and an amazing writer, and has such talent and such gift. That woman's mind is so creative and so brilliant, and just sometimes she'll explain to me dreams that she's had or visions that she had or ideas that she had, and wow, I mean, it's just like it is a movie. And as you know, she directed The Seeker and Solitary Rave and all these things, and she's working on more videos as we speak. She's just an absolute joy to work with, and I really want to do more with her ideas, and just keep polishing that talent, because it's something else to witness. I really am blessed to be able to collaborate with Calico. I admire her and have such a fondness and love for that woman, and she's a force to be reckoned with.
You guys have such a good creative relationship. And now that I know that Lindsay and the other Beasto Blanco members it is a very big collaborative that you guys have going. It's a very cool process.
Yeah, and Calico has a PR company for her acting, and they took on a couple things for Beasto, and they got the offer from the PR company from Rolling Stone there in Germany, and Music Express and Metal Hammer, and we filmed it and recorded it and sent it off, and they did the rest, and it was awesome. It was fun. It was a different thing for us to do. It was very challenging.
Sounded great, man. I mean, for those of you that haven't seen it, go check out our last week's Sunday Livestream Sunday, or go on to Chuck's actually Beasto Blanco's Facebook, because that's the thing I want people to understand, that aren't already following you or following me. If they're following you, what's the best way to go? Because I know you just started your own official Chuck Garric
Instagram,
and you said that was a cool process to build it up yourself and sort of have that whole thing flourish by itself. But they also at Beasto Blanco. So what are the Instagrams that people can go check out?
At Beasto Blanco on Instagram, Beasto Blanco Facebook. I think those are the best. You're going to get most of your information. If you want, more personal stuff from me, official Chuck Garric on Instagram. That's the one I'm personally posting on. It's a nice platform. It's a tough one for me, man. The social media thing is I know I have to do it, and I've never been. It's been really eye-opening, because we're so blessed to have the fans that we have for Beasto, and one of the reasons why I did do it is because of the people I've connected with from Alice and Beasto, and the dedication they have for keeping us afloat, keeping our bands alive. If it wasn't for them, we couldn't do any of it. I mean, we just did a tour. We were on tour in March, and obviously we had to cut it short because of the C word. But we were so greatly supported by our fans, and they were there in full force, and you see the love for what we're doing, and for me, it's a way to stay connected to the ones that that mean a lot to us, and that are keeping us alive doing this. And so that's the way I look at the social media, more of not as a advertising forum or a place for me to earn more followers or sponsors. I just want to show the people that love what I do as an artist, make sure that I'm showing them the love back.
That's cool, man. Well, you know what? They found out a lot, I hope, from listening to this podcast so far. They found out maybe they've scratched the surface of what Chuck Garric is, and then we delved, we went deep into some areas that I think they might not have heard about before. So I'm really happy that we were able to accomplish that. But like I said, there's always room for part 2. There's always room for more. I can't thank you enough for coming on. One last sort of thing before that everybody's been talking about, the obvious, Beardgate. What is up with Beardgate? Is it going to last? Is it going to, do you think, how did it start? Because this is not the first time that there's been a Chuck Beardgate. And I know that a lot of people out there are loving the beard. Yeah. And I don't know anybody that's not. Well, actually, I know one person. That's it. But what is Beardgate, and what is it for you? And will you show your face again?
You know what, man? I think I'm going to enjoy the process right now of growing the beard. Because I can, and I'm actually quite impressed with how even it's coming in. It looks nice. So I've purchased the beard, shampoo and conditioner. I purchased the beard comb, and
you went all in. All right, cool.
And the perfume. If you could smell my beard, it's like cognac. And
did you get beard grooming tips from Kyler Clark?
No, man, I haven't. There's some. It's amazing what is online. There's actually people who, this is what they talk about, or how to grow your beard and trim your beard.
Is there beard porn sites? Is that what you're telling me?
Maybe there could be, if anybody would know. But I don't know, man.
Those are rabbit holes I have not gone down.
Yeah. I think I'll keep going, man, and maybe be and sort of like my way of the Ben Roethlisberger say, I'm not going to shave this until we get back out on the road again. So that's probably what I'll end up doing. I don't know if it's something that necessarily fits in on the stage with Alice Cooper, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But maybe I'll just let it keep growing and see what comes out of it, and then we'll do a big, shear the beard type charity thing or something.
He's so beardo. I love it. Yeah, she like I did dreads for bread. You could do something like shave the shavings of your beard.
We'll do it live on your television show here, and we'll have people donate to their favorite charity or something, and we'll make a big process out of it.
I love it. For those of you who are on the chat, if you come up with the best hashtag for Chuck's Beardgate, that'll be great. And there you go. You've had so much love throughout the whole entire episode.
I love everything, man. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you as well, Chuck. Like I said, we can't. They found it. There's the white bass. The white.
They may not be fast, but they sure are slow.
Well, let's bring them on.
I've had it there for a while. I just didn't want to interrupt until the end
because it was magic, wasn't it?
It was.
All right.
That's a great picture.
It is
a good one.
That one.
Well, there you go. I just wanted to thank everybody that's been watching the show so far. That's the rat right there. He's been monitoring the chat, putting all your comments up. That's Vic that's been basically putting the ins and outs and making it look all so colorful. Again, if you're watching us or listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, this means nothing to you. That's why you should go over to YouTube or Facebook Live and subscribe to us. And definitely follow Mr. Garric at his official Chuck Garric Instagram and Beasto Blanco. I just gave Dave the hook, and now Vic, you're getting the hook. Watch that. It's become a thing, man. So anyway, Chuck, hang on just for a couple minutes while I shut it down. But you know what? Everybody that's been watching and listening to this podcast, it's been a very special one. We've had Chuck Garric from the band Beasto Blanco, also happens to play bass for the almighty Alice Cooper, and sort of my right-hand guy on stage right. We were next to each other all the time. It's been a pleasure, Chuck. Thank you so much. Anything you want to say going out?
No, I just want to say, dude, please keep up what you're doing. I love it. It's amazing. I don't know what I can do to help you, but we need to get you on some sort of network television show. You're a great host. You're as good as the as Johnny Carson or any of those guys, man. Honestly, it's amazing. I think
I'm on Roxy TV right now. That's about, and that and a ham sandwich.
I always believed in you. This is your forum, and I think you're wonderful at it. And I wish you the best of luck. And I'd like to get you some more,
You're doing it. You said what can you do to help me? You've already done it today. You've come on the In the Trenches podcast, and it's been nothing but a good time. Again, another little reference to that headlining band. Oh, I had to go out on that. So thank you. Thank you very much, Chuck Garric. For those of you that are watching, please follow Chuck. Please follow all of us on the In the Trenches podcast. And until next time, enjoy the ride.